Hi, this is Russ with Devoted Golfer TV, and I'm here with Mark Bukaric. Did I get it right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mark is with Nippon Shafts and Shaftology, and you've been fitting for how many years?
Since 1985, when we started, and there wasn't that many fitters around that were doing it as a full-time gig. So, yeah.
And you fit outside?
Well, not in the beginning. We didn't have connectors and TrackMans and all kinds of wonderful adapters, but like the last 15 years has been outside. Yeah.
I fit 100% outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People like to see the ball fly.
You know, there's a nice element of indoors in that you have a very controlled environment. You have all your materials there. If something breaks or a battery goes or all that other wonderful stuff that you know happens in an outdoor fitting. And you can control sometimes the golfer's comfort indoors. But outside does give you the ability to use computers, to use ball flight, to use the hearing sensation of the hit, outside and watching the golfer swing and their immediate response to the result.
Yeah. And they watch the ball fly, and next thing you know, the next swing is a little different because...
Sure, that's right. It just but I'll tell you, it's amazing. Even outside on range is not the same as playing always. And so you have to even stretch a little bit outdoors.
Right.
But it is the best, ultimate, closest thing.
Yeah. You know, and then, of course, by the time he sets the same clubs 10 times in a row, he gets a little better at it. So there's always that element of fitting.
Yeah. Sure.
So you represent Nippon Shafts. You're the Nippon distributor in North America.
Yeah, 20 years ago, Nippon Shaft, we connected, and they said, you know all the club makers, and I said, I'm not a distributor. I said, unless you want to really make it right, keep the product represented properly, communicated properly, and make the product, explain the product so that it gets to in the right hands of the consumer in the right way. And they said that's exactly how we want to start. And so 20 years later, I've been with them and having a wonderful time.
So the products are first rate. I can tell you that,
Yeah.
because I've been working with them a long time. Let's talk about the new one, and it's not so new. It's the 950 Neo. I get it right? 950 GH Neo.
NS Pro 950 GH Neo.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is something old and something new, right?
You've said it perfectly. When I joined the company in 2000. They had Nippon Shaft had just introduced the NS Pro 950. It was the first lightweight steel model. How you get lightweight steel is by making the walls thin. And what happens is the most difficult part is making sure that thin wall doesn't then equate to a harsh, brittle feeling. And nobody had cracked that code. There had been other sub 100 gram steel shafts out there, but nobody could make it feel right. But with our partnering with some steel companies in Japan, Nishin Steel prominently, we found a new 8655V steel variation that we use in the 950, and we had a shaft that hit light but felt solid and square as a heavier model, which was just the heaven. The reaching heaven as far as steel shafts went. So, and that's actually how I wound up joining the company. I hit the product at the PGA show that year and was like, this is the greatest feeling shaft in the world. So long story, 40 million pieces later, the 950 certainly is a legacy product, and it still will sell today, tomorrow, and many years in the future. However, that head was designed around a smaller mid-cavity iron head. And as the heads have gotten bigger, and they've gotten stronger lofts, all of a sudden, guess what? The shaft doesn't perform the same way. Most notably, that the ball is launching a little lower because of the flatter faces. And so we stiffened the middle section, kept the same material, tweaked a little bit of the heat treatment, but strengthened the midsection, which made the lower tip section a little more active, which creates a little more ball flight for those lofted, less lofted irons. And there it is, the 950 GH Neo.
Yeah. So, you talk about this being a legacy product. I can't remember a shaft other than dynamic goals that have survived as long as this shaft in fitting carts. I mean, right? I mean, I look at all the fitting carts and they all have 950s in them, and I go, wow, that thing's been around since I got into business.
Yeah, we're certainly very proud of the heritage of that product. It is a product that has given enjoyment to many golfers all around the world, and that's why it remains in the fitting carts, because of the success of the performance of it.
Yeah. I like the new graphics.
And we finally have some fancy graphics to match the fancy performance.
Yeah, because it was pretty much a plain chain in there. I mean, there was a steel shaft that had this tiny little wrapper around it. You had to look real close.
And we kind of held on to that for a long time, because it's sometimes understated is appropriate, but sometimes we want to rejoice over what we've of the success of the old and what's to come with the new.
Yeah, and so this is pretty popular in the LPGA Tour, isn't it?
Well, on the LPGA Tour, any given week out of a 150-player field, we'll have anywhere from 70, 80, 90 to 110 players using Nippon shaft products. It's a killer statistic that we're very proud of, and this one will just add to that total.
Yeah, so now we'll actually be able to see the logo on Sunday.
Yeah.
So talking about steel, and I know that there's a Nippon steel story here. Let's talk about this little beast. This is the Zealous. I happen to have the 7. There's a 6, and there's an 8.
Yep.
At the moment, I'm playing the 8. I can tell you, you can tell me how many of them I sold this year, because I order them from you.
Yeah, right.
And I'm always on the phone saying, send me another set of Zealous.
Yeah. So, part of it was that, some of these products get invented for one reason, and then the uses are multiple. And on some ways, the Zealous was invented as graphite products proliferate in the marketplace. We wanted to have some lighter products to compete with some of that graphite. And we at the core of what we do is we're a steel company. But the beauty of this product also came as a result that this model has a softer profile. It's for golfers who have maybe slower speeds, or who are not that slow, but they have very smooth transition in their swing. The pace of their swing is more even and steady. And so tons of people have, including many of your customers, just love the shaft because it's soft in how it's applied. They can feel it moving, and they can respond to it, and they gain speed. It's wonderful.
Without giving up any control.
Without giving up any control. Me, I'm more in the middle of the range of the different shafts. I have a hard time with that because I can't slow my swing down to make that shaft work and how it's designed.
I know. I know exactly what you're talking about, because the first shaft out were the 7s, and I tried the 7, and everything was kind of going left. But the 8S is working, and it promotes. In my case, it promotes a little bit of a slower swing, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, so it's working for me. So let's talk about the most popular shaft on the planet, Modus.
Yeah, the Modus.
Which of the 4 Modus models that are out there now, who's the all-time winner?
By far, the first one that we made, the 120, it still leads in sales. I can't be that definitive on the major manufacturer side because the 105 has come on so strong. But on our aftermarket sales and on the PGA Tour, both usage and wins, the most popular Modus is the 120, followed by the 105, and then the hard transition, hard acceleration, fast swing 130 comes in third place, and then there's certainly room also for the 125, which has its followers.
Okay, so that's a lot of numbers, and I know exactly what each of these represent.
Right.
So why don't you tell our viewers
Well,
who you would fit into a 120 versus a 130?
okay, so those are perfect shafts to compare because they're so different. They're opposites. So what every shaft has, as you well know, are three main things. There's 20 things about a shaft, but three main things, which are flex, weight, which we all have kind of had some experience with, and then profile. Profile is really the key characteristic, in my opinion, of a shaft fitting a golfer's swing. And profile is taking the sections of a shaft and measuring the individual sections of a shaft, and you can describe a shaft like the 120 as softer in the butt, softer in the mid, and then very rigid in the tip section. Okay, so that shaft is for somebody who's more of an even-tempered swinger. Guys that can really motivate it as far as speed, but how they apply the force is more even and uniform. They also have a desire to feel the shaft move in their hands. They want to feel it bending, but when they get to impact, they want it very stable, which the
very long, yeah.
The tips provides that stability, and that shaft has won the British Open, the FedEx Cup. It's won quite a few. It's more than any other shaft in the Modus series, and it's won quite a few events on the LPGA Tour as well. Okay, so now you got.
So when we talk about tip stability, what you see on this shaft is that this piece of the shaft is almost the same flex all the way down till we get to this first step, and this is a long way for a first step.
Yeah.
We see other brands where you've got these long tips, but they're not anywhere near as stable as this.
Yeah,
is there some metallurgical secret that you can talk about?
That's probably for the metallurgists. But there's so many designs out there, shaft designs, that our company does, and the other wonderful shaft companies incorporate. And that's because there's so many different golf swings. And a second thing, I'll tell you something else about that metallurgy or whatever you want to call it, is one other benefit of that shaft is because of that long tip, that shaft has more weight in the tip section because it's a thicker wall, more weight in the tip section. That is how you get stiffness, by creating a little thicker wall. Yeah. And so what that does is that gives a shaft that actually feels a little heavier, even though it's not. So it's kind of the benefit of you're able to swing a club that feels light, because the light, the overall weight is 114 grams in a stiff. It's pretty light for a tour-type range club.
Yeah. And even less on the R, right?
And even less on the R, and therefore, but it feels very stable, which helps keep your body in rhythm and in balance and rhythm. So between the idea of the flex, being softer in the butt, in the midsection, so you can feel it, and then the stability, rigidity of the tip creates just a wonderful performance, a wonderful balance, a feel of I can feel the shaft moving, but I can tell it's stable at impact. And that's that even-tempoed golfer.
Yeah.
Then we get to the flip side, which is the 130.
Right.
The 130 is the opposite. It's that golfer doesn't want any movement. They usually have a harder swing, faster transition, more acceleration, and they're used to shafts moving around, and they don't want any motion at all. They want it to feel very stable, but they need the shaft to bend somewhere and maybe also help get the ball in the air for that type of holding that angle at the very last moment type swing. And so the tip is very soft. So that's the 130. Rigid, up top, very stiff in the midsection, and then soft in the tip section. And that shaft has won the Masters and the Wyndham and many other events. The 130.
So the 130 swinger, is that more of a tour player than a recreational golfer? Or do you find some recreational golfers
I'll
fit
tell
into it?
you, go off the reservation here a little bit. I fit this guy who's 65 years old, 5'8", 150, hits about 3 greens around, and maybe 150 yards with his 6-iron, okay? Now, if he walked in any store in America, he is never going to pick the Tour 130. Yet,
Yeah.
I mean, 150 yards, and he's not making good contact. I mean, most people are going to push him into something lighter, more flexible, blah, blah, blah. But he's gets fit for 130 stiff. Don't know but the result was it felt the best, it hit the best, it was the best. A year goes by. For whatever reason, he never followed through getting the shafts installed. A year goes by. He tests the whole range of Nippon shaft, 130S again. I mean, so it's the result of his swing. He kind of, a little harder, a little more aggressive, little bit of he loads it a certain way. He doesn't like the motion of it moving around, but yet it's rigid and stable, and then he can just flick it or pulse it or swing it, and he finally followed through, and he loves it. And it's like he's hitting 10 greens instead of 3 now. So you have to. So the message there, I kind of jumped off the track, but the message there is you have to experience these different profiles. Otherwise, you're never going to find the right profile that matches your swing and get the best result.
Yeah. And so now we've got the 105 and the 125, and the profiles are very similar. The weights are different.
Yeah.
So who do you fit there?
Yeah, that's somewhere between the two. And I'd fit the guys who just won this weekend. They won the PJ event and the Champions. You can look them up. Both those guys are famous golfers. They both won, both with the 105, both with 105X.
That's a very sweet weight for a lot of golfers.
Yeah. It's
especially the recreational golfer.
It's becoming the most popular Modus because it's a little lighter weight. You can go a little longer with it if lengthwise, and it's kind of a neutral profile. Kind of, it's not really severe like the 130 is kind of a severe, firm, really super rigid midsection, and the 120 super tip rigid section, soft butt. It's kind of in the middle. It's what a lot of people grew up with. And so they kind of gravitate towards it. And so that's why we offer it in a couple, like same profile, like you say, just a couple different weights, 105. 105 grams, 125 grams, basically. So
the 125 gram, when do you pull the 125 gram shaft out first when you see somebody?
So that is for a guy who he wants something that's got a little heft to it, a little weight. He's kind of it's hard to describe that kind of middle swinger. But he's not. He has a history of playing with
heavy shafts,
a heavier shaft with a traditional mid kick, tip stiff product. And that's kind of a friendly territory, a friendly neighborhood for him to start with. Is where you would pull that shaft out. And see if that's something he likes, or if it's something that maybe he wants something a little bit a variation of that.
A story that a lot of our viewers might not have ever heard from you, I've certainly heard it enough times, I could almost give it, is the metallurgy behind Nippon shafts, NSK bearing.
NHK Spring.
NHK Spring, okay.
Yeah, the simplest, it's one of the simplest stories in the world, but NHK Spring is a spring manufacturer. Nippon Shaft NHK Spring manufactures little disk drive springs. They manufacture big monster truck leaf springs. They, if you go into their company headquarters in Yokohama, they even have a little glass dome with a pedestal and nothing there. And then these microscope lenses come down, and you can look, and you can see this thing that you couldn't see with the naked eye. It's a little spiral, metal spiral. They make little baby, tiny, not naked, visible to the naked eye springs. And a $6 billion company making, with 20,000 people going every day trying to make metal better. And the whole idea, how does that line up with a relevance to the shafts, is a spring really is a device. You depress the spring, you're loading energy, and you let it go, you're releasing energy. And when we're putting parts in cars, we want that part to, a valve spring in a car, we want that to load energy uniformly and release energy uniformly so we don't have any accidents. And a shaft really is just a spring in that it loads the energy and releases the energy. So who better to make steel shafts with a company that's expert in metallurgy, heat treatment, and manufacturing than the descendant of NHK Spring, Nippon Shaft.
So you bring all of that metallurgical skills to the party.
And not only do we do that, but we have challenges when we go from the Modus shaft to the Neo, and then we go to this, and we can't, the Zelos, and we physically can't make the Zelos with the 8655V materials. So we work with some companies in the steel business, and they give us different samples, and we say, man, the NZN material, that this is called the NZN steel alloy. That's what this allows us to keep the same feel, durability, and uniformity of the other materials. So this was created specially for the Zelos line, unlike any other steel metal used in any golf shaft in the world. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it's very cool. And I mean, you see the orders come in. This is like, I sell twice as many of these as everything else. It's a great fit. I tend to fit people maybe my age or a little younger than me, and we don't have the strength we once had.
Strength, speed,
yeah,
all that.
And it's a very, very comfortable shaft.
Yeah.
And nobody's losing any distance, and they're not losing any accuracy, and they're having fun playing without paying an extravagant amount of money for a lightweight carbon fiber product that would have similar characteristics, if not worse, right? So that really, you really nailed it with that one.
This is a side story too on the Zelos 8. I can't use the gentleman's name, but he won a major. He was using this the Zelos 8 for several years on the PGA Tour. So it's knocked my socks off that he would be using that.
Yeah.
But for about 5 years, he used the Zelos 8 before he kind of lost his card and such. But it's a very soft loading shaft, and here you have a PGA Tour player, so there's some stability to it.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
There's some stability, and may even be a tempo controller, because if you do something stupid, it's going left.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about Modus 120 and Modus 130, and so let's talk about the takeoff of those profiles in the driver shaft. And I've got people waiting for this thing to come into stock.
Yeah.
So we've got you tell the story.
So here is two graphite products, and what does that have to do with the steel company? And it really is an extension of our steel family, because these two products are profile driven. They're profile matches to two of the most popular Modus models, the 120 and the 130. And this is the M+, which is a match to the Tour 130. And not only, and this is the B+, which is a match to the Tour 120, so soft, rigid,
long, stable,
versus
rigid,
stiff, rigid, soft. And but the cool part about this is they are a mirror image in the profile. They are, if you draw the line, the profile lines, you get the exact mirror image iron on top of fairway wood and or driver.
So in your experience, if I fit somebody into a 130 iron shaft, I just pull this out of the bag first?
100%. If they're digging the 130 and they've played with it and they've had success and their swing and the profile are going in the same swing ride together, that you certainly have to figure out the weight. So I have to figure out if you want to adjust the flex a little bit, but I would pull that out the very first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing here, right?
Same thing there. 120 to the B plus and 130 to M plus.
Yeah.
100%.
When will these be in stock?
March, April of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to start to see these. So there's a new shaft this year. I mean, it's releasing right now, right? The hybrid shaft. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Modus3 hybrid, graphite on steel technology, is like the full...
Graphite on steel.
That's a
steel
mouthful.
core?
So it's
Steel
an
core, graphite
NS
on top.
Pro steel inner core,
Yeah.
and then a bonding agent, an adhesive, and then a graphite outer sleeve.
Okay.
And it's a hybrid shaft.
Okay.
And it's been out on tour for about maybe a year and a half. It's in about, we got 30 pieces in any given event. It's already won on the PGA Tour. It's been in the bag of a winner, so that's very cool. But the best part is that it's solid. It is promotes uniformity of contact, the weight and the construction and the flex. It's a hybrid shaft of weight, flex, and feel. And the weight, the flex, and the feel promote uniformity of contact, uniformity of distance control, uniformity of trajectory.
Yeah. So you take steel and you wrap it with carbon fiber. I would imagine that you've got some pretty interesting torque numbers there.
Yeah, it's pretty, off the top of my head, I think it's very similar to steel.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the Modus hybrid is definitely for the Modus player or the high-speed iron player. And it's fairly, it's a little bit stiffer. It's kind of cool. It's right in between the stiffness of a iron shaft, and a wood shaft. The weight is in between the iron shaft and a wood shaft, and then the feel.
What do they weigh?
They're a little heavier than a normal hybrid. They're 90 to, they come in different weights and flexes, 90 to 100 to 110.
Okay.
And
That's a good range, but it's, as you say, it's a little bit heavier.
it's beefy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you have someone who's playing a 120-gram iron shaft and they're playing a 70-gram driver shaft or fairway shaft, then it fits pretty much right in the middle. Like a 100-gram or 92-gram fits kind of right in the middle.
Right. So that guy that I've been fitting in lightweight steel, I need to try this shaft. I have a number of players that they just, number one, they don't have the budget for high-end carbon fiber, and they've got way too much swing speed for the low-end product. That's like a wet noodle.
It's fairly expensive, the Modus hybrid.
Okay.
If for somebody who's a high-speed player who wants stability, contact, uniformity, direction, control, the Modus hybrid is definitely a candidate to try.
Yeah. How about feel? What does it feel
Yeah,
like?
it doesn't feel like a pure graphite, but it's definitely more muted than a normal steel.
Okay, so there's a little more feedback than you would get out of carbon fiber.
It feels
you don't
solid.
get a thump, you get more of a click?
Yeah, I would say so. It's a little more muted than your traditional steel, but it feels great.
Yeah. Are they in stock now already? Or?
we had our first run, and our inventory is dwindling at the moment, but those are, we have coming in big time in March and April as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will see them shortly.
Yes, you will.
Okay. Anything else new that we need to talk about?
I think we've talked about enough.
Mark, thanks.
Thank you so much,
spending your
Russ. It's
time.
always, it's always
Yeah,
a great time. Enjoy it, and
Okay.
and I really applaud all this work you do. It's really wonderful for the golfer. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for being here.
Hey.